Yeah, we're now live.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rob Humby, the lead executive member for Hampshire 2050 and Corporate Services. Welcome to my decision day, which is currently being broadcast live on YouTube via the County Council website. I'd like to welcome Councillor Jonathan Glenn, Councillor Adrian Collett, and the Deputy Leader, Councillor Ros Chad, to the meeting. Welcome all. Okay, we will go straight into the agenda item 1, Solent Transport Plan and other regional transport issues. And Dominic, I think you're presenting that report. Over to you, Dominic. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you. Good afternoon, members. The report you have in front of you has, if you like, two parts to it. The first of which is the approval of the Solent Transport Plan, the Solent Transport Business Plan for the current year. And that is something that has been discussed previously at the Solent Transport Joint Committee and provisionally agreed amongst the constituent authorities of Solent Transport. The constitution is such that we bring it back to each of the individual authorities for formal approval, and that's the purpose of bringing that to you this afternoon. The rest of the report is really taking the opportunity while we're reporting on that to update members and to highlight a few issues that are around our current work on regional and sub-regional transport planning, and to outline those briefly for you. They're covered in detail in the report. The first of those is really highlighting the changing policy context within which we're working for regional transport planning, and really highlighting that we will need to keep an eye on and evolve our methods of engagement with our fellow authorities on issues. So it may mean changes for the future, but we'll keep an eye on that and we'll come to you with more formal proposals as they firm up. The changes in context that I'm talking about are principally around government policy as it relates to transport and government priorities for transport. And of course, within that context, also the government proposals relating to County Deal. The second part of the background report we wanted to bring to you was to outline the issues around our modelling capability. We currently have the sub-regional transport model operating in the south of the county and a partner model within the north of the county. That is coming towards the end of its current life in that it's got probably another couple of years. So we will need to look at what we need for our future modelling requirements. It is an important piece of our work, but there's a very high price tag attached to it. So whatever comes forward, we need to make sure is fit for purpose for the future and comes forward with a reasonable, affordable price tag within the current financial climate. The third element within the background is really more of a procedural item, is highlighting that the chairmanship of Solent Transport comes up for a change. And traditionally that has been done on a rotation basis, and it is Hampshire's turn to take the chair next. So again, we're highlighting that with you, and I think probably anticipating that Hampshire will wish to take up that role when it comes due to us. That's all I had to say. Of course, happy to take any questions.
Yeah, Dominic, thank you. And I think I'd like to say at this point that for the thousands of people watching, that we go through a rigorous process to get to this point, if you like. So I've been through these papers many, many times as officers and other members as well. So when we get to here, generally we've been through it, but it is an opportunity, like Councillor Collett's going to do, for asking questions. Adrian, over to you.
Thank you, Rob. I'm pleased to see that the Solent Rail connectivity business case is something that is being pursued as part of the strategy. Rail clearly offers great opportunity for modal shift towards the environmental benefits we're trying to achieve. It mentions in paragraph 9 of the appendix that the waterside rail final business case is a higher priority, or a sooner priority is probably a better way of putting it. I just wonder what sort of timescale we're looking at for that, because the amount of traffic getting up the A326 every day that could potentially shift to rail if this was to come to fruition could be one of the biggest wins we have in the county. So what sort of timing are we looking at for the waterside rail issue?
Dominic?
Yep, so I think that's exactly right to prioritise, to point to it as a more immediate priority as opposed to a higher priority. They're both very high priority for us. The waterside rail is a current piece of work. It's not necessarily a quick piece of work, so it will take some time to conclude, and we are very dependent on partners within the rail industry to allow us to do that. I would have to, I think, check to come back to you with a more precise answer if you wanted more than that.
No, leave it at that for the moment. But if I need to know a clearer idea of timing, I'll come back to you, Dominic.
Yeah, please do come to me and I can clarify that.
Adrian, thank you. So in terms of that answer, you're happy in terms of how the paper's set out? You'll just a bit of clarification if you need it later. Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much. Just something for me from the point of view, I was involved with this early on. With the modelling, if you like, and how that's about updating it and everything else. What is the position about? Because we've used it, and I think Transport for South East do. What is the position in terms of other modelling tools out there that could be used? It's interesting to know, because that will affect our sort of attitude or opinion, if you like, potentially towards how this goes forward.
I think it's probably reasonable to say it's in a fair state of flux at the moment, not least because of the impact of COVID and the uncertainty that that's introduced into all of our modelling and all of our future reviews. In the light of that, we have commissioned a review to look at what our modelling requirements are, both for Hampshire and also with funding from Transport for the South East, looking at it from a regional perspective as well. So that's a piece of work that we have recently commissioned, and that's something we'll report to you in the future. And that's very much focused on what is the most fit for purpose approach for the future. Yeah. It may be SRTM, it may be something entirely different.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and thank you for that. I was just curious. I mean, there is potential, but doing a review, because like all these, modelling tools, they have to be completely up to date and current policy and everything else, obviously. So I'm just curious that there must be other ones there as well. But it's what's also, I suppose, what's a better fit for us sometimes, isn't it, in terms of that? But the actual modelling tools have to, take into consideration all the same information that they would all have to do, wouldn't they? So there is other opportunities potentially, depending on what the review of what our requirements are. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
There is absolutely right, and really that relates back to the point I was saying that the report covers about the changing environments as well. Yeah. The SRTM has served us extremely well over the last 10 years. Yeah. The need for the modelling is slightly different for the future, so we'll be looking at that as part of the review. Yeah.
So it'd be sensible to do that anyway, regardless of. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. I have no other questions. Just checking, Councillor Glenn, Councillor Chad. No further questions. Like I said at the beginning, then these papers go through quite a rigorous process to get to this point, and we've had many discussions around here. So if there aren't any further questions, Dominic, thank you for that. I'm very happy to accept the recommendations as set out in paragraphs 2 to 3 on page 3. Dominic, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so we will go straight on to agenda item 2, Leaders Community Grants. I think, Emma, you're presenting the paper. Emma, thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Leader, Deputy Leader and members. This is your regular grants paper. The paper has 2 recommendations. The first is to approve 3 administrative changes to grants that have already been awarded. So that is basically to extend the time frame for when they can be claimed into this financial year. Those 3 organisations are New Milton Memorial Centre, Hythe Pier and Spud in the New Forest. The second part of the paper on Appendix 2 deals with the grant applications we have in this time round. And we have 3 applications for you to consider. The first is for East Boulder Community Stores. It's for a total project of just over £330,000. They're requesting £25,000 for the creation of the community stores. And we are local member Councillor Mann supports that application, and we are recommending an award of £25,000 subject to the conditions of stage payment to enable their cash flow through the building works. So that's the first one. Shall I go on to the next one? Yeah. The next one is for Starburst Studios in Yateley. So the proposal here is the organisation is seeking funding to take over the management of the Yateley Village Hall, and the funding is for associated refurbishment and works towards that. The whole project costs are £60,000. They have applied for £15,000, but in light of the funding they already have available to them, we're recommending an award of £7,500. and Councillor Collett has indicated his support. I'm sure he'll comment if he needs to. And then finally, the application, the third application is from Youth and Family Matters down in Totton in the New Forest. This is for funding towards their website and to refresh their website. They've asked for 2,800 towards a 5,300 project. We're recommending an award of £2,600, which would be 50% funding. So we seek match funding from organisations, and Councillor Harrison supports that application.
Okay, Emma, thanks very much. I'll go to Adrian first. I want to comment about the rollovers in a minute, but I'll go to Adrian first on your one. Adrian.
Okay, thank you, Rob. First of all, a question on the East Boulder community stores. I read this through and I wondered, what type of store are we talking about? It seems to have quite a general purpose to it, but is it a grocery store? Is that what's envisaged?
I believe it's a community shop, yes, with sort of like conveniences. So I think so. I believe so.
Right. Okay. No, I mean, I support it. It seems like a good initiative in a community that will benefit from that. So I'm happy to support that. And just to comment, you're right on the Starburst Studios one. It's actually not in my patch. It's in Councillor Davis's patch. It's about 100 yards outside mine, but very much part of the Yateley community. And I'm sure Councillor Davis would support it as much as I do. This building was the original Yateley County School. Going back 100 years, maybe longer than 100 years. It was the village school when Yateley was a tiny village. And of course, we have modern schools now and it was no longer needed for that. And for the last 50 or 60 years, it's been a village hall. And the Starburst proposals do really seem to have a lot going for them. So I'm very happy to support this application, as you've quite rightly reported, Emma. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. And I'm probably one of the few members that can go back 100 years on the council, Adrian, I would think.
I didn't want to say actually, but he was in shorts in those days, Chairman.
But thank you for that, and appreciate and your knowledge there. We gave you the benefit of the doubt of the 100 yards as well, Adrian, about being outside there. But it is proper and correct. We do that. We had that discussion. So thank you for that. Councillor Glenn, Councillor Chad, any comments on any other? No, okay. So just with me then, Emma, just on the sort of, we had a quick chat about this previously, on the rolling forward of funds. Obviously, so two things to say. First of all, to those watching again, there is a very rigorous process of grant criteria, and it goes through that to get to this stage. And so therefore, a lot of those decisions are made. If they don't fit the criteria, they don't get to. I think it's just worth making that very clear. And you would discuss with applicants about how, you know, things fit and don't fit. So just to be clear on that. But also, in terms of rolling forward, did we say we were going to look at the criteria to that? I think that's what we mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong, because if there's a completely justifiable reason, absolutely understand we should do that, but want to be clear that it's not just done as a matter of course, because potentially you're limiting other applicants in the future if things don't get delivered. But some sort of clarification would be good. Yeah.
Indeed, I think there's a reasonable request to roll money forward where projects change or for the reasons that are set out from the three above are absolutely understandable. But there has to be a limit and a time frame. So what we wouldn't want is somebody rolling, requesting a carry forward again and again. We don't get that. We don't tend to get that. But we will be dealing with that in your next decision day through our discussion on the grants criteria.
Okay. All right. That's great. I know we'd had a brief chat, but I couldn't remember when it was going to come forward. But I think it is worth pointing out. And then when we go forward with the grants, it'll be in the criteria, and people will be well aware of that. They've got to go through that process. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Emma. Have no further hands, I don't think. Anybody else wishing to speak? So thanks very much, Emma, for presenting the report. Very happy to accept the recommendations as set out in paragraphs 2 to 3 on page 21. If there's nothing further, I will ask for the webcast to be stopped, please, Louise. Just to say also thank you to all the officers, members and people that presented that are on the call as well. So thank you to everybody attended the meeting. Can we stop the webcast, please, Louise?
Yeah.